As Robby confirms that Nick, the college student who is in a coma after taking laced Xanax, is brain dead, he receives more attention than he did the last time. He must break the bad news to the boy's parents, and the poignant scene highlights how devastated they are to lose their child. His mother erupts when a counselor shows up to tell them what to do next and shares that their son was an organ donor. In addition to highlighting the Pitt's realism, the emotional scene adds to Robby's mental state by putting him through yet another challenging loss. The most difficult moment, however, is when a simple Uber Eats delivery of lunch for the doctors arrives, and Robby shows up to find out who it is from. But his face is tense with emotion as he walks away after reading the name on the card. Robby's mentor, Dr. Adamson, passed away during the COVID-19 pandemic, and it turns out that the message is from his widow. This gives the protagonists flashbacks in earlier episodes additional emotional context and demonstrates how he is still emotionally involved in the events of that era. Given that today is Adamson's death anniversary, his wife's gesture is all the more poignant. Gloria, who is attempting to pressure him into joining a contract management group, exacerbates his feelings even more. This makes him more irritable during the hour because he doesn't want to alter the hospital's operations in spite of the lengthy wait times and low patient satisfaction ratings. Given how long it has been since Gloria last appeared, this particular plotline still seems to be taking place in the background, but the episode highlights how crucial it is to the remainder of Robby's shift. The future of the hospital may even depend on what transpires. As the afternoon wears on, it's unclear if Robby will continue to experience long-term effects from the day. His main goal at the moment seems to be to find Teresa, someone with whom she can discuss her son David and his fantasies about hurting women. The Pitt's worst choice may have been to allow the disturbed young man to flee, even though he hasn't been seen since episode 2. Now that his mother is taking him, attention may be diverted from him, which could emotionally clash with Robby's mental state if unintended consequences occur. Other characters in the Pitt continue to help various patients, with a particular emphasis on the student doctors, while Robby deals with some challenging emotions. The episode's most fascinating story concerned Dr. Santos, whose haughty and overconfident facade started to crumble when she made serious errors. After nearly losing a patient in episode 5, she becomes anxious when given the responsibility of making an incision for a patient whose lung is encircled by blood. Her scalpel plunges into Dr. Garcia's foot as her hand slips. After her daughter left her at the hospital, Mel worries about what to say to Ginger, who has schizophrenia. Even though Dennis appears anxious, he is surprisingly beginning to demonstrate his skill as a medical professional as Santos' confidence begins to erode. It's the ideal diversion, highlighting how his nervousness could actually help him become a better physician. Mel worries about what to say to Ginger, who suffers from schizophrenia, after her daughter left her in the hospital. Even though this plot drags for a few scenes, Mel handles the matter carefully in the end. It all comes together when she reveals that she has a sister with a disability, which makes her work with Ginger feel more. Victoria, who is torn between success and hardship, goes to a room with a few other students and her mother, Eileen, to test them on a patient's condition. Here, the senior student informs a few uninformed students that Victoria is her daughter, information she wished to conceal so that others wouldn't think she was being given preferential treatment. She has a lot to prove about her skills in the trauma center, though, as Dr. McKay is still upset with her. However, the plot is still evolving, and the outcomes could be just as favorable or unfavorable. The only problem with this episode was that, despite their careful handling, there were some cyclical patient storylines. Among them is a patient with sickle cell disease who is still recuperating, as well as another who discovers he has benign cysts from previous brain parasites, a worm graveyard in his brain forever. The most cyclical story, though, was told by Christy, who begins and ends the episode attempting to have an abortion while her mother and aunt argue. Even though the story is the episode's hook and cliffhanger, it doesn't go anywhere new, but it also retains its significance. Even though these stories are repetitive, the Pitt episode 6 maintains the pace by giving Robby more poignant storytelling and providing deep insights into the thoughts of the residents and students. The emotional and professional issues the doctors deal with kept the show interesting even though it was the least exciting episode in a long time. It provides the ideal foundation for upcoming shows to shine, particularly as the day wears on different characters.